Good morning. It's good to greet you at my kitchen counter. I had my first chemotherapy session last Thursday. My gastrointestinal system is not happy with it, but we're going to carry on. After an iron infusion on Monday, I've got enough energy to do some simple things each day. Hopefully that'll hold true. I know lots and lots of folks are praying for me, and I feel their prayers and appreciate all their kindness. But I want to talk about Paul, not me. We're still with Paul on a ship in the Adriatic. They didn't listen to Paul about keeping at a safe port. They thought they could make it to another one. And good morning, Lori. And so they've been out on the ocean. Again, first century ship, not much in the way of ability to fight the elements of the sea. So we're at verse 27, and we're going to do the rest of the 27th chapter of Acts. Let me see if I can read this. On the 14th night, adrift somewhere in the Adriatic Sea, at about midnight, the sailors sensed that we were approaching land. Sounding, they measured the depth of 120 feet, and shortly after that, 90 feet. Afraid we were going to run aground, they threw out 4 anchors and prayed for daylight. Some of the sailors tried to jump ship. They let down the lifeboat, pretending they were going to set out more anchors from the bow. Paul saw through their guise and told the centurion and his soldiers, "If these sailors don't stay with the ship, we're all going down." So the soldiers cut the lines to the lifeboat and let them drift off. With dawn about to break, Paul called everyone together and proposed breakfast. "This is the 14th day we've gone without food. None of us has felt like eating. I know that. But I urge you to eat something now. You'll need strength for the rescue ahead, and you're going to come out of this without even a scratch." He broke the bread, gave thanks to God, passed it around, and they all ate heartily. 276 of us all told. With the meal finished and everyone full, the ship was further lightened by dumping the grain overboard. At daybreak, no one recognized the land, but they did notice a bay that had a nice beach. They decided to try to run the ship into the beach, and they cut the anchors and loosed the tiller and raised the sail and ran before the wind toward the beach. But we didn't make it. Still far from shore, we hit a reef, and the ship began to break up. The soldiers decided to kill the prisoners, so none could escape by swimming. But the centurion, determined to save Paul, stopped them. He gave orders for anyone who could swim to dive in and go for it, and the rest to grab a plank. Everyone made it safely to shore. That's the reading for today. So something that Barclay pointed out in the commentary was that if a soldier lost his prisoner for whatever reason, if the prisoner escaped, not if the prisoner died, but if the prisoner escaped, then the soldier would end up serving the sentence that the prisoner was meant to be serving. So if you were guarding a prisoner, you had a big vested interest in making sure that that prisoner didn't escape. So they weren't killing prisoners just to be nasty about it, but to protect themselves. Hey, Linda. Protect themselves from being imprisoned themselves. But Paul's centurion really wants to keep him alive, and it is that is what again happens is that Paul continues to be able to live, and his centurion is keeping track of him. But also, again, this is written from Luke's perspective, and from Luke's perspective, and probably accurately, Paul really kept everyone alive. He continued to encourage them. When they were getting near to land, he gave them communion, a break fast, As they broke their fast, they thanked God, and 276 folks were on that boat. And he encourages them to eat and to draw strength. Part of the uniqueness of this past week has been absolutely zero appetite for me, which is a new phenomenon in my life. And it takes determination to eat something healthy at given times of the day. So I am sure that if they're on a ship just kind of bobbing in the ocean, nobody feels much like eating. And so Paul encourages them to do that, and to do it in a way that is an understanding of God's provision for them, and an understanding of God's power in their lives to continue to strengthen their lives. So we could, I'm not going to be great at this. I'm just saying, but as they near land, they think, okay, we can do what we usually do, which is to put in anchors. And the sailors who, whether they've been in this situation before or have heard stories, they just want to get off the ship and get away from these prisoners and just kind of make sure that they make it out alive. Their priority is that they make it out alive. And they know the ship better than anybody. And so they figure, nobody will notice and nobody will understand what they're doing because they're not sailors. If we put out this rescue boat and we get on that and go into the land that is obviously close, whatever that land is, they're not quite sure. Spoiler alert. We find out next chapter that it's the island of Malta. So Paul, who again is a seasoned traveler and watches people, understands what they're doing. And he tells his soldiers that, if the sailors leave, we really are going to be in a pickle. So the soldiers listen to Paul again and cut the lines so that everybody stays on the ship together. And again, this is exactly what Paul has said. Paul has said that everybody on the ship is going to make it out alive. It's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be easy. We're going to lose the ship, but everybody on the ship will be safe. And after he, again, focuses their intention, I think that's important to me, that Paul takes all of these people who have been bobbing out in sea for weeks now, and kind of, again, I imagine, kind of talking in their own groups, imagining what's happening next, maybe being very depressed about what's happening next, not seeing a lot of hope, listening to their own inner voices. I don't know about you, but sometimes that inner voice gets really loud and it is too often negative. So what Paul does is he focuses everyone on God, himself as a conduit for God's power. And he continues to speak words of hope. So having everybody go off to their own devices is not helpful. I don't think it's helpful at any time. I think that focusing people on what God can do and relying on the power of God in their lives, again, by having this meal together, by Paul speaking words of hope and strength, then, and forcing the sailors to stay on the ship, they are able to come into the reef. And again, I think if this was just somebody's story, it seems as though Luke would have written, and so we hoist the sails and we wade into the beach just fine. But that's not the story. This story is, as they hoist the sail and cut the anchors, they end up in a reef and the entire ship breaks up. But the soldiers say, anybody who can swim, get in the water. Anyone who can't, here's a plank, let's get in there. And again, according to Luke, everybody made it in safely. So I guess for me this morning, I think, okay, Nothing really happened the way that the people who put out of that port really planned. The seas were really rough. Nobody felt like eating. Life was hard, but God is present. And that I believe profoundly. God is present, God is seeing us through, and looking towards God as a focus and helping to have people in our lives who help us to focus on God sees us through even the most difficult of times. These passages, of course, become more poignant to me today as I am finding new ways for my body to be unhappy. But I am going to follow this path and trust my doctors, and hopefully in a while I'll be feeling better and continue to do the live feed. Every morning that I can, I will on Wednesdays. I'm not guaranteeing anything. So if you don't see me here on a Wednesday morning, or if you don't see my Sunday morning sermon, which you didn't this past week, just know that the chemotherapy is working. It's just laying my body a little bit low. I do have a Caring Bridge for anybody who wants to follow, and my niece even set up a GoFundMe, which I'm very appreciative of. I bought a shower chair for myself yesterday, knowing that I had a little extra money coming in. Life is strange. God is good. Paul, the apostle of God, continued in the midst of storm to call people's attention to the power of God in their lives, to simply have a meal together, draw strength together, and say, we're going to make it through. The ship, not so much, but the human beings, God's children, we're going to make it through. So next week, hopefully, I start the last chapter of Acts and finish up that book. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for all the love. And hopefully you'll see my sermons shared on Sunday. I'm hopeful. We'll see how it shakes out. God is good all the time. Good to see everybody this morning.